Happy Monday, everyone. This is HCPX. We are back, and this is a loaded fight week. Loaded fight week. Dude, you know what I'm excited about? This is Adrian Broner fight week.
Yeah, of course.
Adrian Broner is back. The triumphant return of Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner is fighting a part-time fighter, full-time lawyer, and Bill Hutchinson. Oh man, Adrian Broner's back.
Fighting
Jaime
under
Munguia's
Don
back.
King Productions, using still using paint to make their flyers. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. Hey, whatever they're paying that dude, pay me that, Don. I'll make you your flyers. I'm
It's
just
on a
saying.
it's on a Friday evening in
Mm.
Florida, and it's a $25 pay-per-view. So it's there. If anybody wants to see it, it's there. It's there for you. Adrian Broner's kicking off the fight week against Bill Hutchinson. We'll get into that. Jaime Munguia is back in action against Derevyanchenko. You know, mixed feelings on that fight, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on that. And
Sure.
the big one, and we got Sonny Edwards back in action too. It's a fight he should win. It's a fight he should look good in against an undefeated fighter who, hasn't fought too many fights. But the big one is Teofimo versus Josh Taylor. That's what I'm excited about. That's the one that as soon as it was made, it was circled on my calendar. Appreciate y'all rolling through. Wheelchair Man John on Usyk signing with Skills Challenge. What did you think about that, by the way, just to start things off? He signed with Skills Challenge of Saudi Arabia. It could be a game changer for the sport of boxing. Do you think this is a permanent thing that's going to stick around for a while, or is this just like...
I don't know if it's a permanent thing or not. What I could say is, in the immediate aftermath of it, is this: it changes the landscape dramatically in the heavyweight division. Dramatically. All right, because the man that's been the road warrior for so long, the man that's been the B-side for so long, since he was at cruiserweight, he was going to other people's countries, taking their belts, unifying that in their countries. He was the undisputed champion, fighting in other countries. He went up in division, and he fought Chisora in this country. He fought Joshua twice, back to back, in his country. And then you still got people saying, well, hey, nobody knows who he is. You bow down and do what you're told, and this, that, and the third. And then now somebody has removed the bully pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
And a Saudi Arabian rich motherfucker stepped up and said, we're gonna sign this guy. We like his honor. We like his character. And we got money. And we got a lot of it. And we're paying premium price. So don't worry about what he's going to make, because we're going to pay him. All right? And we're going to offer you, suckers, more money than anybody else could offer you. Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do here? Like, there has been a power dynamic shift since Usyk made this move, at least in the short term. And that's just the reality. He's the guy to go to for the big money fights right now, Usyk, because of this move. So I think it was a smart move.
Mm-hmm.
And now, no one really has a reason not to fight. There's no real good reason financially, anyway, why you should not fight Usyk. You got to fight him. Like, he's got the money's there now. Right?
He's smaller, by the way. So you big heavyweights, I've been hearing these style like the big heavyweights. It's the big heavyweights of this era would have beaten heavyweights of every other era because they're big, right? Go prove it. Go prove it. You got a small heavyweight there. A historic, like that's a guy who's historically the size of heavyweights of generations prior, coming up from cruiserweight. Go beat him. Go beat him. Go prove it, right?
He's a little middleweight. Remember, he called him a middleweight when he beat Joshua?
Blown up middleweight.
Like, how can you lose to a middleweight? Well, he's just a middleweight, bro. And now you're going to make a lot of money fighting his middleweight? Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. He's got the money now. He's got the bag. He's cutting out the middleman, going straight, direct. Go fight him. Go fight him for all the belts. Now, Teofimo versus Josh Taylor. The reason I love this, there are many reasons I love this fight, but they're both guys who had the same trajectory in their career. Josh Taylor, we talked about his undisputed run. What did he? I mean, he beat Prograis, Baranchik, Jose Ramirez, and then the Catterall fight. I think people are reading too much into it. I thought he lost the fight. I thought he lost the fight pretty clearly by about 3 points. But Jack Catterall is a stylistic root canal. That's a guy that it just turns out nobody's going to look good against, but you still should beat him, right? But it was clear to me Josh Taylor probably didn't take that fight. And these aren't excuses, not excuses. What I'm saying is maybe we're reading too much into that fight. Perhaps Josh Taylor is one of those guys that fights up to his level of competition. And Teofimo, by the way, mirrors that. Teofimo is a guy who I feel fights up to his level of competition when he sees possibly, once again, not excuses. I'm just throwing these things out there. A Pedro Campa, a Sandor Martin. He's like, but a Josh Taylor, a Teofimo Lopez. Let me remind people, D-Style, who's the first person that beat Nakatani? What's his name? Who's the first person to knock out Comey?
Teofimo, second round.
And he did it in brutal fashion. Who's the guy who definitively, it wasn't controversial. This was the easiest championship boxing match I've scored in my life. 116, 112. I don't
beat him, and nobody had to gaslight. Nobody had to pretend. No. It would have been the same other way. We didn't have to watch the
fight with the sound off.
Like everyone just knew he won. Like he proved it. Yes, that was Teofimo against Loma.
Even a guy like me who picked Lomachenko, who's a Lomachenko fan, was not demanding a rematch because I definitively saw who won. This is Teofimo Lopez. And I don't think that goes away overnight. That guy is still there somewhere, buried deep. So can that guy come out again is the big question. And the same thing with Josh Taylor. Can that guy who beats Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, Baranchik, can that guy that's buried deep right now come back out? But the trajectory of both these guys end up on top 10 pound for pound, undisputed. One guy's undisputed, non-undisputed. It's just they mirror each other in so many ways, and they both have a chip on their shoulder. That's why I love this fight, because something's going to give, and I don't really know. I like the odds. I think Josh Taylor is going to win this fight, but would it shock me if Teofimo Lopez comes out and puts on a great performance? That wouldn't either. I don't know. What do you read into this? Just initial fight week thoughts.
Well, first of all, man, so much to let's peel this like an onion. So first of all, I don't agree that Taylor fights to the level of his opposition, because that's not what his history shows, right?
Okay.
Like when he fought that guy in the UK, that Thai fighter, he knocked him out in the first round. You know what I mean? Like, you don't belong in the ring with me, boom, took him out. You know what I mean? He did the same thing to other fighters. Like when they didn't belong in the ring with him, he took them out. Okay. O'Hara Davies, TKO'd him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Shout out to O'Hara Davies, by the way. He's in a different position right now, but nonetheless. So I think what happened to Catterall is what he first said. I think he overlooked him. Right? I think he overlooked him. I think sometimes that happens. You just think like, well, I'm going to win this fight, whatever. But people forget that the reason guys are undefeated and they have so much success is the work they put in. You don't inherently just win. You have to put in the work, right? And he admitted as such that he maybe celebrated a little too much and overlooked Catterall. Didn't take him that serious. I think that's what it was. I think he fought the best he could that night. The problem was with the preparation, right? I don't think it's an issue where he goes in there and the guy's not at his level. He fights to that level of opposition, but he could have fought at a better level. I just think he fought his heart out that night. If you watch that fight, I don't think it was a lack of effort. I think it was the lack of preparation in that particular fight. Also, it turns out Catterall isn't half as bad as people made him out to be, right? And I think we all kind of overlooked him because we didn't really know who he was, never really seen him before or whatnot. but sometimes guys surprise you a little bit. So, for example, a lot of people said that Paul Williams overlooked Martinez, right? Oh, but this time he's going to get him, right? Well, Martinez knocked him out in the rematch, right? So, Roy Jones, he overlooked Tarver. That's why. And then what happened in the rematch, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not an automatic, like, I'm not just going to give Tater you're better than Catterall. He still has to prove that in the ring, in a rematch at some point, right? Or by fighting their peers and he outperforms them consistently enough for me to come up with that conclusion as of right now. Catterall, from my understanding, may very well do the fight with Prograis. I think that's a great fight, and we'll kind of go from there. With that said, Teofimo is, because you're right, like that Teofimo that beat Lomachenko is there somewhere. And we don't know if that's the one that's going to show up, or is it the one that fought Camboza is going to show up. And just like Tater, it all comes back to preparation. And I would think the one that gets up for fights and for that challenge and people telling them you're the underdog, you're not going to win, historically has been Teo, right? Teofimo is the one that has risen to the occasion when everybody counted him out. That's why I can't count him out, right? With that said, I favor Tater. I question the mental stability of Teofimo coming into this fight. I saw the trash talk segment on Top Rank, and he's kind of all over the place. I'm not sure how to read it, and I try not to read too much into those things. But when he says, I know the camera's on me at all times. So when I asked my dad, do I still got it? I did that on purpose. I don't buy it. I don't think that's a good explanation whatsoever. I think he had a moment of doubt. I think what he should do is give Martin more credit than he has. Yeah. Because he gave you hell in that fight. And you were questioning yourself a little bit after the fight. It's okay to have that human moment, but I acknowledge it. And one more thing. A red flag for me. And again, I'm not counting him out, but a red flag for me. He still hasn't accepted the fact that he clearly and without question lost that Camboza's fight. He has not come to terms with it. He keeps saying things that like aren't true. Like, the ref was going to lift my arm, but then he lifted his arm. And he's just saying things that don't sound good to me. I'm not saying it means everything, but it's a red flag to me.
That doesn't bother me as much because I've seen fighters just not accept losses at all.
Well, we've seen Wilder. But here's the problem, Calix. Just right to that point. It's not that in the surface that bothers. It's not that it bothers me or that I just don't like the fact that he's being a sore loser or look, Marquez, one of my favorite fighters of all time. He was a sore loser. Like you know what I mean? He would walk out. I won every round. Like every round I win. Like whatever. But that's not what it is. Has he gone back to fix the problems?
Yeah.
Because you cannot fix a problem unless you accept the fact that it's there. You cannot improve from a loss unless you accept that you lost. So when he says things, Calix, like, yeah, but it wasn't a loss to me, so I don't even like. That's what's the red flag to me. I'm just saying.
That's an interesting way to go. I want to touch on that in a minute, but first, Sandor Martin is a fighter much like Catterall that maybe we're not giving enough credit to. Also, a guy who went in, pulled off an upset, almost pulled off another upset. He's one of those guys, right? So we may not be giving him enough credit as well. The thing you said about Josh Taylor, maybe it's not true that he fights down to level of competition. The same thing you could possibly say about Teofimo, because Teofimo was mowing guys down before the Lomachenko fight. True. And so, maybe they're not fighting down to the level of competition. Maybe they're guys who can win. I talk about these fighters on the podcast. I talk about this is the way in other sports too. Like I bring this up. Ed Ogeron builds the greatest college football team of all time, arguably. Then 2 years later, he's fired because he can win, but he can't sustain it. Certain guys just can't sustain. They can't sustain. So possibly we're looking at two guys like that right now, possibly not. And that's why I love this fight is we're going to start to get answers. Now with Teofimo, you bring up it's a red flag. He can't accept losses. Maybe he's not going to revisit those things and correct the mistakes. It brings me back to the trainer thing. You know, his dad, much like I was just talking about with Ed Ogeron, I think he can build a champion, but can he sustain it? Can they make the proper adjustments in fight to win fights? Can they
Right.
look at footage of Josh Taylor leading up to the fight and pinpoint things that they can take advantage of? And then now they showed that they could do that against Lomachenko. Can they do it again with Josh Taylor? I just have we reached Teofimo's peak already at 25 years old, and it's just never gonna build from there? Will his dad be the right voice that he needs? Because he's not going to get rid of his dad in the corner to make adjustments. Is that a factor here? Is the dad son dynamic going to hold him back from making the proper adjustments to be a sustainable champion in the future?
Look, I don't knock loyalty. I get it, right? He's loyal to his father, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. It's his dad. That's his trainer. But bro, I look at red flags, man. Sometimes people reveal parts of themselves. Like I haven't forgotten about the interview he did where tears came out of his eyes, and he said, "Sometimes I wish my dad was just my dad, and he wasn't my trainer." Right? Because he feels like I'm not getting that, and maybe they fixed that or whatever. And by the way, that's the fight that he won. By the way, that's the fight that going into that fight he had the performance of his life. So, but that's the thing. Like when Teo is keeping it real, when he shows vulnerability as a person, that's when he's most dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
The Teo that is in denial, to me, is a Teo that doesn't quite perform, and I think he's in the like. I don't know what it is, but everything's a setup, right? Like everything that was told to me. I still remember when I interviewed Theo Senior, and Teofimo Senior is telling me, oh, after our win, we went to the back, and everyone looked sad, and everybody looked depressed. They were devastated that we won because they wanted Loma to win. That one judge tried to give him the fight. It was a setup. They tried to set us up with the ref because he called that a low blow when it wasn't. That's like some serious conspiracy thinking. Like how conspiratorial can you possibly be, right?
Mm-hmm.
To where you believe that the promoter of your fighter is going to be sad, and the staff are all sad. I got to question all that because this is the same people saying, "Oh, they beat Camboza's 10-2. Oh, they set us up so they could give the belts to Haney." Like when Haney didn't even fight Camboza's in the zone anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is the same fighter that thinks there's some concerted effort by Top Rank to push the black fighters while holding him back and not promoting him to the best of their abilities. That's his mind is in places, Calix, that it shouldn't be in. He should be focused on the most dangerous 140-pound fighter on the planet. He should be focused on Josh Taylor, not on if there's a setup. Are the judges going to be on our side? Is the ref going to try to set us up again? Are they trying to tear us down to bring up some other fighter in the division? Who's next? The Scottish fighter? Are they going to try to big up Scottish fighters now? Like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot like going on in that mind of his. And he just looks distracted to me. And I just don't like you going into this fight. I just don't. I think this guy is going into this fight, Alex, with the mentality that He's never lost. He really wanted to compose this fight 10-2. But they robbed it from us because they had some other plans. They wanted to gift Haney the belts. And now I'm here to get my get back, right? Well, what did he say? Like, nobody even asked him. He's like, what am I going to do? I'm Teofimo. I'm the guy that everybody counts out. And I don't know. I just don't know that's the right mentality for this particular fight against this particular opponent. There's something Tater said. You're not going to, like, I know this. I'm not going to break mentally. Like, I'm not going to break, man. I'm going to bring it. I'm going to make it breathe hard. Your lungs are going to be on fire, he said. I like that answer. He's got him thinking. I don't know if Teal's ready mentally for this fight, bro. I just don't. And Josh Tater plays mind games.
Yeah.
I know he's going to fuck with. He fucked with Ramirez's head. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
All right, here's what I want to start doing is do this experiment and start to see where people are at, because when this fight was announced, I expected Taylor to open up as like 3-1. Maybe I'm crazy. And it didn't. And it opened up as 1.5-1. Now it's at -175, Taylor. Where are people's heads at in the chat right now? What do y'all think? Is Josh Taylor going to go in and beat Teofimo, beat him easily by decision? Is he going to knock him out? Or is Teofimo going to pull off the upset? Is the old Teofimo that we came accustomed to, 2019 Teofimo, 2020 Teofimo, is that guy going to show up, pull off a decision victory against Josh Taylor, possibly knock him out? This is one thing that both of these guys is explosive. They're both explosive, particularly Teofimo. Teofimo is explosive. He's gotten a lot of credit for power in the past, but what he doesn't get enough credit for, I don't think, is his explosiveness and his athleticism. This is an athletic guy who is cutting off angles of Lomachenko while they're fighting. And I just keep going back to that. Like, the guy who pulls off, in my opinion, one of the best victories of the past decade in boxing in 2020, I don't think that guy just goes away. He's got to be there somewhere. But I guess the question is, will the mental stuff, is that too overwhelming? Because we all see it, right? It's all there. It's all there in the open. He's openly talking about it. His wife is leaving.
We've seen this in sports, though, Alex.
What's that?
We've seen athletes like Robert Griffin III. Like, he looked like the future of NFL quarterbacks, and look what happened.
Yeah,
fell off the map. Injuries had a lot to do with it, but still, you know what I mean? And I think that happened. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh, who are you leaning right now?
Taylor.
You're leaning Taylor.
Yeah, I made a bet when I had a conversation with myself. Now, before somebody thinks I'm crazy, no, I wasn't in the mirror like talking to D-Style, like pointing at them. You know what I mean? I wasn't doing that. But I reflected. And usually the feeling I have before the fight's even made, like before a fight's made, and someone asks, who do you think wins? Usually the person I pick then is, or very early when it's first signed, usually ends up winning. I usually get it wrong when I change my mind a week of. And I used to have a rule: I don't fall for the 24/7 shit. They're gonna hype it up. They're gonna gas you up, and you're gonna get hyped up, and you're gonna believe it. They're gonna give a speech. You're gonna see them training. They're gonna remind you about their great moments, right?
Yeah.
I keep watching those. I mean, that was an awesome performance against Lomachenko.
Yeah.
And I look at that, I'm like, man, and that dude was like, shit. I thought that dude was the future at that moment, but we're here now. I'm gonna roll with Taylor, right? Like that's what I'm going with. I think Taylor. This is his weight class. He's the bigger guy. He's a stronger guy. Now, and of course, there's caveats with that. Is he going to make weight comfortably or not? I don't know, but it's an X factor. It's whatever. But here's the kicker. I do believe that the bookies are up to something. I think by putting the odds so close, they're trying to get people kind of like thinking, you know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe they think there is a chance he could win. So maybe it
Mhm.
is worth putting money in. You know what I mean? Because if he was a 3-1 underdog, as crazy as it sounds, I don't think, even though those are good odds, people would have been like, see, even they think it's wide. Like, I don't think it's going to win. But by putting it close, I think it's like some reverse psychology they're doing here with those Galaxies. I think that's what it is. Like, I'm saying, like, I think some people are going to be like, maybe they know something we don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just hard. This just happened. He just beat Lomachenko. Now, maybe 140 is a different division. Maybe he doesn't translate there as well. But this dude he's a great fighter. He is. And he's in his prime. He's 25 years old. So I just keep going back to this. When the fight was
Taylor's
first
in his
announced,
prime too, brother.
he is. But I expected, I said, Josh Taylor should be, and I may agree with you on this with the betting odds. Maybe they're doing it close for a reason. But I think he's a 3-1 favorite type of guy. But I keep like testing myself on this and checking myself on this. There's got to be something I'm missing because it's hard to believe that a guy who does that just 3 years ago, and the guy who knocked Comey out cold, the guy who the first one to beat Nakatani.
Does he
It's
hit
hard
harder
to
than
believe that guy would
Prograis?
just disappear. It's not like Andy Ruiz. Like Andy Ruiz knocked out Anthony Joshua, but it's not like he had a great pedigree before then. It's not like he was giving you explosive KO
Right,
after
right.
explosive
Yeah,
KO
yeah,
against
yeah.
top 10 guys. Teofimo didn't come out of nowhere and upset Lomachenko. He was there. Like, I underrated him. I undervalued him going into that fight. You got that one right. And it's hard to believe that guy would just plummet after that. It's just hard to
I
believe that
think
would
it's
happen.
hard to say. Like, here's the thing. Do you think Teofimo hits harder than Regis Progress?
At 140, it's a different type of power, I think. I think he has
No,
better
and
one.
I
I think he
agree
has
with that.
better one punch
I was
power.
gonna go there. Teo has like that Cobra strike, like "Sah!" Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like a shock,
explosive. It's
and then
explosive.
or you don't see it coming. It's quick. It's an explosive. Ryan Garcia has that same type of like snapping out of nowhere power. Progress has heavier hands, like, you know what I mean, with both hands, and it's heavier as a fight progresses, type of aggression. Um, so I know that maybe what the bookies are looking at is, yeah, like maybe Teo can catch him early with something big and
Mm-hmm.
turn the whole fight around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe he could hit him with something he doesn't see coming. Tater's been inactive. Tater's already been talking about moving up in weight class. And Teo himself was in that same situation where he said, yeah, I should have probably moved up after the Loma fight, but I stuck around. And I think he said in the face-off, he's like, he should have moved up, right? So I think that's what it is. I think they're saying to themselves, he could get caught with something big. Maybe he's going to struggle making weight, and maybe they have the odds as close as it is. But I just think as once the bell rings, if Tater looks just fine, just watch. By round 3, the live odds are going to expand immediately.
Yeah.
Because what they're betting on maybe is what could happen early in that fight. But man, another point, you brought up Nakatani. What did Teofimo say after the Nakatani fight? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Whew, man. Well, at least I don't got to fight tall guys like that anymore.
Yeah.
Josh Tater's a tall guy.
Yeah.
Josh Tater's almost 5'11". They said Ramirez is 5'10", but he was a little taller than Ramirez. So I something about the 5'10". People aren't honest about 5'10" for some reason. I don't even notice that, Calix. You know what I mean? A lot of guys round up to 5'10". It just sounds better. Nobody wants to be 5'9". Have you noticed that? Have you ever heard somebody tell you I'm 5'9"? It's either they just admit they're 5'8", or if I could pass as 5'10", I'm 5'10". It is what it is. But here's the thing. Tater's tall. He could fight from the outside, and he could fight a lot better on the inside than Teo.
Uh-huh.
He's gonna make them work, bro. Like he's gonna make them work. Like I'm telling you right now, uh, good thing he has a strength and conditioning coach because he's gonna work it. Even if you win, lose, or draw, he's gonna work for it in this fight.
Yeah.
There's not gonna be like anybody out there really believe Tater's gonna be downloading data for 7 rounds? No. There's gonna
We
be no
got
downloading data.
we got somebody who's 5'9" in the chat, by the way.
My respects. All right.
Shoeshine says, I'm 5'11" and stood next to Taylor. He's tall, or I ain't 5'11" no more. So people, people be lying about their height. That happens. And
Well,
people
here's
are
the thing.
bringing
Like maybe it's like I just think Tater is 5'11" because either that or Ramirez is 5'9".
uh-huh.
Like, it can't be both. You know what I mean? Because they stood next to each other, bro. Like Ramirez is like right here. I'm like, well, what's going on here? How are you both 5'10"?
Yeah. Now the chat's bringing it, and they're bringing up great points. Is Shoeshine brought this up. Not a fan of Teofimo's antics, but what he accomplished at 23 at lightweight far exceeds what Ryan Garcia or Devontae accomplished. Yes. And also Black and Brown Boxing brought something up earlier. And this is something I really want to hit home this week, and we're going to explore everything this week.
At this point?
No, it's earlier. It's God, I missed it. But basically he was saying something to the effect of you got to respect both of these guys for taking challenges.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
And that's what I brought up last week. This is the most important point I want to hit on this week. And I love this fight. And we'll talk about matchups and betting odds and CompuBox all throughout the week and touch on everything. That way we're not leaving any stone unturned. Because once again, when this fight was first announced, I was all Josh Taylor's going to win this fight. Josh Taylor. As it gets closer, and I guess naturally, and you explore more options, and maybe I'm outthinking myself, and maybe I'm tricking myself and saying we got to be missing something because Teofimo is still a great fighter. He's still like that guy is still in there somewhere, but perhaps he's not that sustainable guy who can sustain greatness and make proper adjustments. Going back to what you were saying, perhaps he can't look in the mirror and make the proper adjustments as to mistakes he's made in the past. Perhaps they're not in-game fighters to where if something goes wrong in the first, second, third round, his dad can't give him proper advice. We saw that. That was a huge red flag against Sandor Martin. He's not giving him the proper instructions in the corner. We all saw that. This isn't just being a couch potato and saying, that guy should hit that 100-mile-an-hour fastball. No, we all saw the proper adjustments that should have been made in that fight, and he wasn't getting that instruction in between rounds. But the main point I want to hit home this week is win or lose for both guys, and we'll evaluate where they're at and all this stuff and where they went wrong in the fight. But you got to respect both of these fighters fully for what they've been giving us in their careers. Josh Taylor constantly fighting top competition at 140, sticking around to defend his belts. I don't like the 16-month layoff. A lot went into that. We'll talk about inactivity, but he's fighting the fights. I didn't think Teofimo Lopez was going to fight a Josh Taylor at 140, and yet here we are. I thought he was going to make one of those moves where, a Ryan Garcia, or he'll edge himself into easier fights. He's fighting the guy. This is the lineal guy. This is the guy in the division, and Teofimo's fighting him. And
I agree.
After doing what he's already done. So I got to give these guys respect. Win or lose, I'll still be there to watch both guys.
I'm with you. And let me see another thing. I've never cared about like a lot of things, right? So I'm not one of those guys that, that fighter is a mean person or he's a bully so I'm not going to like him. I don't care if he wins or loses. I don't care about all that shit. I care about who the fuck are you fighting, right? If you're a bad person and then this and that, as long as it's not some shit that gets you arrested and put in jail, sorry, Tank. Unless it's not something like that, then it can't be that bad. Like if they're just talking bad about people, if they're saying crazy shit, off the wall shit, as long as you give me the fights I want to see, I don't give a fuck what you be saying. I don't care if Haney says I'll never lose to a white boy. I don't care if Teofimo says Top Rank is pushing all the black fighters. I don't care. Whoever is saying whatever, are you getting in the fucking ring with some other beast? Yes or no? That's all I care about. A dude could be the nicest dude in the world. They could give money to charity. They could do all these nice things for people, and you know, like whatever, spread cancer awareness and donate to kids with autism. That's all great. But you ain't fighting nobody. I don't give a fuck. I have good for you, good for your soul. Doesn't matter to me as a boxing fan, right? I don't want guys to be good people and you know, good Samaritans to society. And I want these dudes to be fighters and get in the ring and fight the best available opposition. And whether you like or dislike Teofimo, nobody could deny that he's constantly been getting in the ring with the toughest dudes in his division consistently. And we cannot say that about other fighters. The same with Josh Taylor. Same thing. All these dudes that are not in a rush to fight Prograis, Taylor already got in the ring with the dude. Right? Taylor already did that. He's been done that. Mm-hmm. And he got a win over him. And he's still around. Right? That's what I care about. I don't watch boxing because I want to watch good people. You know what I mean? I was talking to a friend the other day, by the way, like, and they're like, you know, I want to like Bobby Fischer, but he said a lot of sexist things and he lost his head later in life. I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with his chess game? Nothing. Had nothing to do. Like, I'm not going to stop studying Bobby Fischer because he once said, unfortunately, women aren't smart enough to play chess. Right? Like, I'm not going to like cancel the dude and I want nothing to do with him. He's a bad person. He was still the chess world champion. Right? Like, he's still like it's whatever. Right? Lost his cool. Lost his head. Teo is losing his cool, losing his head, but if Teo comes out and he beats Josh Taylor, you know what? I'm going to say, man, that was a great win.
Yeah.
Great win. Good stuff. I need to like you as a person to support you as a fighter. I don't have to do that. That's me. All right? I never liked half of the shit Floyd did. But you know that I supported for the majority of his career, despite all the dumb shit he was doing outside the ring. Because I didn't care. Point blank. Bro, I'll be honest. Once Tank's out of jail, okay, who's Tank's fighting? That's what I care about. I'm not one of those people saying, oh, abandoned for life. Never let Tank fight. Now, you crazy? No, I wanted to fight. I just don't want to fight. I want him out of the JV league, and I wanted to fight the top dogs. You know what I mean? But that's what I care about. That's me. That's just me.
These guys are the anti-Tank. They're the guys fighting the fights. They're the guys that the eye test is they're not going to look as great with the eye test because the level of opposition is higher. The terrain is more difficult to get through because the guys are fighting the fights. I don't care what people say with their revisionist history. Tank could have fought Lomachenko multiple times. I'm old enough to remember when Tank and Floyd had one of their verbal public disputes that they often have, that these dust-ups that they have publicly that get squashed behind the scenes as the fights get closer, much like what we're seeing with Ryan and Oscar De La Hoya currently. And I remember Floyd threatening to feed Tank to Lomachenko circa 2017, 2018, and saying, hey, you keep messing around, I'm gonna send you to Lomachenko and he'll deal with you. He'll deal with you. I remember this stuff. And I also remember Teofimo Lopez a couple months after COVID breaks out, and Lomachenko deciding they're going to fight each other in an empty ballroom for much less money than they would have gotten had they waited a year, 2 years. Marination. These are the fighters we respect. So if we want to talk about privilege, I keep hearing the word privilege out there when it comes to certain fighters. You know who's a fighter who's very privileged? Tank Davis, both in and out the ring.
That guy.
I need to see these guys step up. That's a guy who, since he's turned pro, both in and out the ring, has gotten every excuse in the book to carry on his little scam he's got going on. This scam he's got running to where he can look immaculate in the ring, even though he's losing a couple rounds early in the fight to much inferior opposition to him. But he's able to fight opposition that's very much inferior to him and look great doing it, passing the eye test without having to challenge himself. Yet these guys who are actually out there challenging themselves and giving fight fans what we want or what we say we want, they're doing it, and they're being graded on a much tougher scale because they're not going to look immaculate and flawless. It's what you say all the time, flawless victory syndrome, right? Flawless victory syndrome. It's easy to have flawless victory syndrome when or pull off flawless victories when you're simply not fighting the competition.
I personally, look, if somebody wants to run a scam, right? I'm not a hater like that. If Tank wants to run a scam and make millions of dollars and sell pay-per-views, and him and Ryan are fighting for the JV belt, so that's cool. I don't got a problem with it, right? My problem is when you want accolades you have not earned, right? My problem is when you call yourself a 3-division champion, and we know you're not. And I know it bothers you, Leonard Allerby, if you're listening. I know he listens, bro. He's stalking the shit out of you. You know what I mean? But so how's it going, Leonard? But the thing is, I'm telling you, if you want to run a scam, right? But don't tell me that's a world championship fight if it's not. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, don't tell me you're a 3-division champion when you're not. Don't tell me you're the best, because in order to be the best, you have to fight
the best.
The best. Like, you have to beat the best. Okay? You don't get to just run around and be like, well, I'm more popular and I sell more tickets. And I beat, the best in the JV league, so I'm better. And if we fought, I would win anyway. No, that's not how we do it. No, you got to fight. I honestly believe Tank Davis beats Devin Haney. But what I believe doesn't matter. What we believe, it doesn't matter. You know why? No one has ever been right about all the fights they predicted, ever. So I could very well be wrong about that. You need to actually fight. And what I respected what Teofimo and Josh Taylor are doing, they're going to fight. Josh Taylor didn't say, come on, that mental midget doesn't belong in the ring with me. I don't got to prove nothing.
We can't be out here giving dudes who aren't doing much mythical victories over the dudes who are actually fighting the fights where you get meaningful victories. We can't be doing that. Why are you giving this dude mythical victories over fighters who are actually fighting the fights? I don't understand why people are doing this. I don't understand this. He gets no mythical victories over here. I'm not giving him a mythical victory. I'm just going to assume he loses all those fights. There's got to be a reason he's not fighting him, other than just terrible management. Fight the fights if you want the victories, but you can't just be handed victories. You can't. We can't just be handing these dudes victories who are refusing to fight the fights. And we could talk about why they're refusing to fight the fights. Maybe it's his manager doing it. Maybe his promoter. Maybe he's agnostic towards who he fights. All that stuff. But he's not fighting.
This is such a great comment right here. Like, look, one of the most frustrating things, right?
Yes.
Like, it's like, we don't need to have fantasy debates when they're literally active, right? Like, they could just fight
in the same weight class.
Like it's one thing. Like, okay, Robinson and Mayweather could never have fought. One dude fought in the 50s. 40s, whatever, you know what I mean? The other guy in the late 90s, 2000s, 2010s. So they could never have fought. So we have no choice but to have a mythical Ray Leonard versus Floyd. We have no choice. It has to be a mythical conversation, right? But we don't have to have a mythical conversation. We don't need to have a fantasy debate, right? about who would win, Tank or Haney, and there's dudes, with all respect, I see them spend hours debating these things. Oh, Tank will knock him out. Hell no, Haney with a box. We don't need to do it. They could just fight. They can literally just fight, and that's it. Like, one of the most frustrating things about Spence Crawford was that they were both active champions, right? Thankfully, they're about to fight, and people debated for hours about who would win. Nah, you're stupid. Like, I'm just saying.
For a half a decade, they did that. When Mayweather and Pacquiao didn't fight each other for, and whoever you want to blame, with 5.5 years, whatever it was, we should have said never again, as boxing fans, never again shall we allow this. We shall do everything in our power to make sure this never happens again. And then in the same weight class, we have two guys who were number one and number two in the division for half a decade in the same weight class, welterweight division, once again. And it happens again. And I'm supposed to get on my knees and thank false god Al Heyman for finally delivering the fight after a half a decade. Nope, sorry, not going to do it. I'm not going to praise people for doing their job, particularly when it takes them far too long to do their job. But this is the thing. You've got a top 10 in the division. You've got Haney fighting Lomachenko. You got Teofimo fighting Lomachenko. You got Lomachenko fighting what's he 9 fights in at lightweight now, and 8 of those fights were against top 10 lightweights. So you got guys doing their jobs. You've got guys fighting fights. Okay, I'll be damned if I see a guy in that division who is not fighting any of those fights, and I'm gonna sit over here and hand him mythical victories, gift wrapped. Like, yep, he would beat this guy, he would beat that. He doesn't have to fight the fights because that's how dominant he would. No. I'm just going to assume that he's not fighting those fights because he would lose those fights.
You know, if that's the default, if every boxing fan has that as a default position, like, no, if you're not making those fights happen, we're just going to by default assume you don't win those fights, right? Yeah. If we all have that as a default position, these fuckers will fight more often. It's when you actually enable, you know what? Tank's whole life is about enabling behavior, right? Everyone just enables this guy's behavior, right? He causes a crash. He's under the influence. He runs from the scene. There's an injured pregnant lady, and then he gets a slap in the wrist. He gets house arrest. And then poor guys complain, oh, the judge is being so mean to me. Can you believe I have to stay at the house? Like, yes, yes, you're supposed to stay at the house. Like, what do you mean? And that's not fair. How is he supposed to stay at the house? Like, it's called house arrest. Like, what do you mean? You're not free, brother. Just like, you know what I mean? Like, what if you and I, if Joe Habib, if El Chido, if Black and Brown, anybody else would have done what this dude did, if Lennox was best did what this guy did, they would have thrown us in prison, bro. Like, no questions asked. There's no house arrest.
One of the things that came out during the court case that was shocking to me is this dude has never owned a license in any state he's driven in. And he's out there playing speed racer with his, sitting on a booster seat, driving and crashing into people,
Jesus Christ.
Sitting on phone books and shit and crashing into people, pregnant ladies, and then just walking away. And then he's going to complain. Dude, I see people on Twitter saying, oh, it's his lawyer's fault. Dude, do you know how good of a job his lawyer did to make sure he got 90 days house arrest?
Yeah, and Joe Habib made a great point yesterday on Ringside Report. Check out the show every Sunday, by the way. Is it 6 p.m. Eastern time? Check out the roundtable on Ringside Report this Thursday as well, 7 p.m. Eastern. But cheap plug. He made the point, like, the way, like, you listen to that audio, and it's like, that's a privilege, dude. Like, yes. You know what I mean? That's someone who did. That's what happens when you allow somebody to get away with shit, right? They have this entitled behavior because you've never punished them. You know what I mean? So they don't feel there's any consequences for their actions. Like if they did that with everybody, everybody would break the law all the time because there would be no consequences for your actions, right?
Yeah.
But the point I was going to get to is, even in boxing, that's the case. He hasn't fought a top 3 fighter in his weight class since Pedraza. Like that's crazy, bro. That's insane. But they call him a 3-division champion, and his fans enable it, and his trainer enables it, and PBC enables it. So he feels like he's a champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Haney beats Kambosos, the guy's like, yeah, he waited till Kambosos had the belts, and then he goes for. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what the fuck have you done? Fight Raleigh? Like, how are you going to fight Raleigh and get on this dude because he fought Kambosos? How on this world does that make sense? And how else do people enable his behavior? They enable his behavior by giving him fictional wins, right?
Yep.
All fantasy matchups, Tank wins all of them, right?
Of them.
He's better anyway, so we don't need to see it. For what? I mean, he doesn't need to beat. The belts don't matter. He'll beat Haney anyway. It's easy work. We don't need to bother with that fight. Haney's not a big name. For what? That's enabling behavior. You're enabling him, right? So he feels entitled and he feels he doesn't need to do it. And then he beats Ryan. Oh, he's better than Canelo. So now you're telling him he's the face of boxing. Oh, I'm the face. Oh, like there's a new sheriff in town. What? Like what? Like so he gets. The dude literally never has to work for anything. They just give him shit.
And this is another enabling thing, dude. It's not normal young man behavior. It's just not. It's just not. I don't want to hear that he's used to a mansion, so he should have done house arrest in a mansion. No, dude, you hit a pregnant woman. Everybody saw you drag the mother of your children out of a charity basketball event by the hair. Dude, you've got to stop enabling this behavior. And once again, man, like, we can see past the outside of the ring stuff and say, oh, Tank is out, and we'll start judging his next fight, right? The point is, his career, what's outside of the ring is inside of the ring. It's privileged in both cases. People were starting to spread this stuff a couple weeks about Lomachenko has a privileged career because he was privileged enough to fight for a title in his second pro fight. It's like, dude, show me the line of privileged fighters or non-privileged fighters lining up to fight an Orlando Salido type fighter in his second fight, and then fighting Gary Russell Jr. in his third fight coming off of a loss. Show me the privileged fighters wanting to fight 8 straight top 10 guys in their weight class. Show me that. Show me the privilege. What I see when I see privilege is a dude fighting for fake belts, fighting for Reggie's. When he fights for Reggie's, they're on there calling him real titles. They're calling Hector Luis Garcia a great opponent when he's coming up in weight. They just can't call things what they really are.
Fix.
It's all fixed. It's a scam they're running. They're running a scam. This is minor league TikTok circuit bullshit is what it is. This is not the real. This is not the real. What we're seeing on Saturday, Teofimo, Josh Taylor, that's the real. What we saw a couple weeks ago, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, that was the real. It was a great fight. It's a chess type fight. And despite what we thought about the results, respect to Devin Haney for fighting the fights. Respect to Devin Haney. People called him crazy at the time for saying, no, I'm going to go to Australia. I'm going to beat this dude. And not only am I going to do that, I'm going to say, I'm going to fight a rematch back there again after I beat him and beat him again. And he does that. And then he fights Lomachenko after that. That's what real fighters do. And that's the type of behavior we should be rewarding. We should not be handing dudes mythical victories who aren't doing anything. He's not doing anything.
I want to I don't know if you remember this story. It was a guy called Ethan Couch, okay, who got drunk, okay, and he was drunk. He got drunk, and he, I believe he was under drugs as well. and he caused a crash that killed 4 people and seriously injured 2 others. He was 20 years old at the time. Okay. A psychiatrist testified that Couch was a victim of affluenza, a
Mm.
product of wealthy, privileged parents who never set limits for him. So he didn't know that there was consequences for his actions. And this led to him serving no prison time. Okay. This guy, since that's what the judge did, they further enabled it, and he ended up breaking the rules of his own like probation, right? He ended up like fleeing to Mexico. It became a whole crazy shit. Okay. I think eventually he was arrested, but to some extent, this is what's happening with Tank Davis right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening both in his personal life and professional life. In a more serious note, in his personal life, he feels like he's being mistreated, even though he can't comprehend the fact that he got off easy for what he did. Even 90 days isn't good enough for what he did. And he's going to serve the rest of his sentence in jail. They're not going to extend his jail time. So he already spent a good amount of it outside of jail, right? And he's still there. Oh, the judge, he's so unfair. You know what I mean? And it's happening in his professional life.
Yes.
A lot of his fan base, his promotion, the guys like Espinosa out there, the Leonard Allerbys, Nosley, right? All these guys are enabling this whole thing. You're creating a monster. That's what you're doing. Like you're putting him in a position where he doesn't have to fight the best, and you're already labeling him the best fighter in boxing?
Yeah.
Based on what? You could be the most popular. Let's say you could make an argument he's the most popular, right? Doesn't make you the best. Jake Paul is more popular than 99% of boxers. Doesn't make him the best. All right? That alone means nothing to me. Just saying.
Yeah. Respect the fighters who fight the fights. And that's what we got to give both guys who are fighting this big fight on Saturday. Teofimo, Josh Taylor. I hope it does well at the box office. I hope the tickets sell. They're putting it in the right place, New York. And it's going to be an explosive fight. Despite how we think this fight plays out, who we think wins, one thing, this is going to be explosive. Meaningful punches are going to be landed early.
Oh, yeah.
And for Teofimo to win, I think it's got to be his punches, meaningful punches that land early. Because once again, I keep going back to this. I don't think Teofimo and his team can make the proper adjustments if things aren't going their way early. That's what I keep going back to. If Josh Taylor starts off this fight fast, starts off well, I don't think Teofimo and his dad can make the proper adjustments to what's going on in the ring. That's what was great about them in the Lomachenko fight was they started off fast. Lomachenko started off slow. But sort of to push back on that, though, is the 12th round of that fight, Teofimo did make proper adjustments from 8th through 11th because Lomachenko was dominant in those rounds, but Teofimo showed a lot of heart and came back. I think that's the main thing he showed in that fight was heart. I'm not sure if that was a proper adjustment as much as it was heart of Teofimo coming out and saying, no, this is my fight. I'm going to take it here. I'm going to win this fight in the 12th round. But I keep going back to the reason I can't certainly say that I think Josh Taylor is going to win this fight easy is that Teofimo that was there 3 years ago is still there somewhere. It's will the mental stuff allow him to get there again? Will it stop him from getting there again? Can he tune in laser focus for this fight and win this fight? That's the
Well, let me
big
ask you
question.
this.
That's the
Let me
big
ask you
wild
this.
card.
Let's assume he's mentally there, he's ready, locked and loaded. It's the same Teo that fought Loma. Who do you have?
Say it again one more time.
Let's say he is ready. He's ready to go with the same Teofimo that fought Lomachenko. Who'd you pick?
Then it's a 50-50 fight to me. I would still edge Taylor. Just being he's the I'm more certain in him at 140. he's a great fighter at 140. He's a proven fighter at 140. So I would still edge Taylor, but that to me it's a 50-50 fight at that point.
Okay.
So the reason I swing it more to Taylor now is the mental stuff. I think Catterall is a bad style for Taylor. I don't necessarily think there's anything going on in Taylor's head that's going to get in the way of him performing great against Teofimo. Teofimo against, let's say, Sandor, and let's dismiss that fight. Let's just say Sandor is a tough style, and you can say the same thing about him that you're saying about Catterall. But Pedro Campa, he wins that fight by knockout, didn't necessarily look great, or by stoppage. I just think there's more going on mentally, and it's deeper red flags to me than you look bad in your last fight. There was an injury after 16-month layoff. All that stuff is fair too, but I just think with Teofimo, there's more things mentally going on that's going to get in the way of a great performance. I don't know, but that's just it's a guess. I don't know. It's a guess.
Well, we're always guessing, right? But I just think if I'm going to go by probability, I just think it's just more likely that Taylor wins this fight. And if I follow my intuition is just telling me that he's going to be too active. It's going to be an assault in on the inside. And I don't know if Teo can keep up. Like it's going to be, you know what I mean? It's going to be like a constant aggression. Mm-hmm. And he could smother Teal's punches if he stays inside.
Yeah.
Which is ironic saying that because he's a taller fighter, but I'm just saying, man, and I think Taylor's got a chin on him. We've seen it. Progress hit him with some huge shots, and he didn't stop coming. So it's going to be interesting. I'll say that.
Oh, this is one of the funnest fights of this year to me, entertainment-wise, and just most intriguing, just because of how they mirrored each other career-wise. Both 19 fights, too. They mirror each other in so many ways, just so many ways, how their career arc has gone, the achievements they already have in just 19 fights. They've been moved fast, and I love fighters who are moved fast because I know why they're being moved fast, because their handlers trust them to go win the fights. And that's what we have here is two talented fighters. Now, the opposite of that is another guy fighting on Saturday, Jaime Munguia. You talk about a guy not being moved fast, but he's fighting Derevyanchenko. Do you like that fight? Because I see mixed emotions about this. Some people are saying, oh, Derevyanchenko, come on, give us a better fight than that. But Derevyanchenko, although he's lost, I think, 3 out of his last 4, etc. It's a barometer type opponent.
So this is how I feel about this fight, right? Like, I feel like they've been traveling in a mule with this guy as far as progressing in his career.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hopping on the plane yet to travel faster, but at least they're in a car now. That's how I feel. Like, I think like at least we're not on the mule anymore. At least Derevyanchenko's at least a step. It's not the step I would prefer, but it's a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, it is going to be an exciting fight. And I've been saying, put the guy in exciting fights, at least. But would I prefer the Charlo fight? Yes, but Charlo, he's got marriage problems. So, but I'm sure that WBC is really going to put pressure on Fury soon to fight is mandatory. Apparently, all Fury has to do is say he has problems with his wife, and he don't got to defend nothing, right?
Who do you think Munguia is going to call out after this fight?
I don't know. He's going to call him out, but I want to see that Adames fight.
I do too, but I
that's the fight to make. It's just make that fight, strip Charlo, and have those two guys fight for the WBC belt.
I get an eerie feeling he's going to call out Canelo.
Well, he probably. I mean, everybody calls out Canelo, right? Mm-hmm. But he might throw that out there, right? Maybe Austria will be egging him on, thinking that's a possibility or whatever. But it wouldn't shock me to call out Golovkin as well.
That's a fight I want to see. I want to see Golovkin versus Munguia.
But don't please. If he doesn't call out Adames, gotta call him out on it. I'm sorry, and I don't want to hear I don't want to hear there's no ducking brigade. Like get all mad because I'm gonna call him out for not calling him out. You know what I mean?
And we both like Munguia. This is the thing. Like, what do
Well,
we
but
always say
you know
about
what,
Munguia?
like, bro? Because we have boxing fans out here that I don't know, like they live in like an alternative universe. You know, like I wish that was the case. Like, imagine we lived in a world where fighters never ducked fights. Imagine all the fights we would get. Holy shit, bro! We would never have anything to complain about. Just imagine that world. Like all these fights that will be happening because fighters will go out of their way to make the fights happen. Right? I just if Jaime Munguia, they've ordered that fight before with Adamas. They could have done this fight. And I'll tell you right now, when Oscar De La Hoya came out and like, well, why can't we have this fight for the WBC belt? Well, why does Charlo get to keep the belt? Good point, Oscar, but Munguia was set to fight Adamas in an eliminator. And y'all didn't do the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but that's not Munguia. That's Oscar. Don't blame the fighter under no circumstance whatsoever. Like, people think like these dudes are like Iron Man and like Marvel superheroes and shit. You know what I mean? They think these dudes are at no fault. These fighters do everything in their power to make all the tough fights happen. Bullshit. That's not reality. Okay, that's just not. Boxing is a business, and fighters are involved in the business because they get the lion's share of the money in the business. So don't bullshit me. All right. If he doesn't call out Adamas, I'm sorry. I got to call him out. I'll be on Aftermath Monday saying, why the fuck did he not call out Adamas? I want to hear that name. You can call out Canelo, throw it out there. Hey, Golden Goose, I get it. Okay, you can mention Charlo, even though the dude's retired, right? You could say Triple G, but I need to hear the name Adamas at some point. I don't care if it's in the post-fight press conference. I need your reporters to do your job and ask him about it. Okay, if he doesn't say it, all right. I don't want to hear. No, we don't need to say it. I'm sure Munguia will fight him in his backyard tomorrow. These guys will fight anybody any day. I don't want to hear that shit. Right? I just want to hear
it. I don't need it to be Adamas, although that would be great. But if you're not going to fight Adamas, it's got to be a bigger fight than Adamas.
Yeah, but he's not going to get the Canelo fight.
Is what I'm saying. Like, remember when Teofimo, Regis called out Teofimo, and then that fight was supposed to happen, and Teofimo said, no, we're not going to do that fight. And then a couple of days later, we find out why. And we say, yeah, we can't call that a duck because guess who he's fighting? He's fighting the guy at 140 in a bigger fight. So that's not a duck. If he's not going to fight Adamas, you got to fight a Charlo. You got to fight a Golovkin. You've got to fight somebody that's going to be more meaningful than that, at least, or tougher than that, at least, for it not to be a duck. But we're at the point with Munguia.
If he calls Janabek, would that be satisfying for you?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are the fights that I want to see.
I'm going to be a spokesman. I'm going to be a spokesman for Adamas. I'm going to call up for that fight.
I'll take any of those fights from Munguia, any of them, but we got to start getting there because Derevyanchenko, I like it. It's a good fight. It's okay. But the thing, I just keep going back to that. I don't need to see Munguia win every fight. I don't need you to tell me he's a top pound for pound guy. I don't need that from him. I'm fine with he looked vulnerable against Jimmy Kelly and then knocked him out. I'm fine with Munguia in that direction. Like, he looked vulnerable in fights and he'll win some, he'll lose some. Just give me the fights. Just give me the fights at this point. But do you think,
I was watching Phil.
I got to be honest, D-Style, like, would you be shocked if Derevyanchenko pulls off the upset here? Would that shock you?
Well, really quick, it would not, because this is, believe it or not, a step up fight for Munguia. As crazy as that is, it's just that it should have happened like at least a year and a half or 2 years ago. You know what I mean? That's what I think. I was watching film of or not film, but a video of I think Fight Hub. They titled it "Munguia throwing Pacquiao-like combinations."
Uh-huh.
Stop putting shit in titles, bro. Like that make. And then Oscar's like he's throwing jabs at the pad, pa, pa. And Oscar goes like this. Whew. I was ready for anybody. Like I'm like,
and I
really,
like
Oscar.
Munguia. And this is the thing, like Munguia was never gonna fight Bivol. And if Bivol's team was actually
That's
entertaining
why you
that,
need a fucking matchmaker.
I
Okay.
could have told Bivol's team that you're not getting that fight. If they were actually doing that and wasting their time and entertaining that, I could have told them, no, you're not getting that fight. And I could also tell Bivol's team, look, y'all better stop messing around because y'all are about to make it to where you don't even get a fight this year at all. You've already messed around. We're in month 6. And they haven't had a fight this year. They don't have anything scheduled. You better stop messing around and go get that payday. You better agree to anything. Agree to everything and go get that fight.
Pa, pa, and Oscar's like, whew, man, he's ready. Like, stop, bro. They put him in the ring with somebody then. He'll be doing that shit. Acting like he did something because he's hitting the fucking pads, bro.
He's got to beat Derevchenko. He's got to win that. Now that's one he's got to win. Like you got to win that fight. That's a step up fight. That's not the level.
In fairness, that's not the level is the best win on Jamal's resume.
It is, but it's a different Derevchenko right now.
Oh, that's true.
Right? This is a Derevchenko on the way down. You got to win that fight.
There was a Derevchenko that Golovkin fought, the one Charlo fought, and now the one Munguia's fight. It's not the same dude, bro. No, he's a little slower, not quite there, but he's still, you know what he still is?
That's the fight that's served up for you. It's a name, it's a barometer, but it's an easier, it's the easier version.
He's a crafty veteran, though, right? He's a crafty veteran who's supposed to give you some new looks, some trouble, do some veteran tactics, but you're supposed to pass that test, right? It's like a puzzle that's doable for you to figure out, you know? That even if you can't figure out the puzzle, at least with like brute force, you should be able to overpower him and take him out.
How was Munguia hitting? How was he hitting that heavy bag?
No, it was the mitts, the pads. And Oscar was like, whoo. Like, I was just like, what? You look like you never seen a dude hit the mitts before. So what the fuck's going on, bro?
Can Adrian Broner, is there a career? Is there a way back for him? Is there a way back? He's fighting his lawyer. He's fighting a lawyer in Florida on a Friday night $25 pay-per-view. And I'm sure Beeb's in the chat. I'm sure Beeb's gonna buy it.
I don't even think Beeb's gonna buy it.
I think Beeb's gonna buy it.
I didn't think Beeb knew he was fighting until you mentioned it right now, probably.
No, Beeb's gonna buy that. I'm telling you, he's gonna buy that. It's $25. Beeb's gonna buy that. He's gonna write it off. I'm telling you, he's gonna buy it. He's gonna buy it.
I'm just trying to figure out why.
Is there a path?
Have you seen the posters for the fight?
I have.
Bro, like they're using the paint, the old school, like Microsoft.
I told you
used to play with in elementary.
I told you he was buying his own. He's got pay-per-views on auto pay.
Oh, you know what it is? He already bought it. That's the thing. Like it's past 10. I already bought it. Look, I'm not. I don't know, man. Like realistically, no. There's no path at 147 for him. Who's gonna mess with the 147?
No, I guess what I mean is we
140.
know.
Who?
No, he can't make. Dude, they keep throwing out 140. There's no way.
A fight they could feed him to Prograis, and that'll be a big fight on his own.
Yeah,
but like, and if Don King's willing to cash him out,
he's got to
match him, give him some money for it. It's a name, but he's going to be like he could get a big fight because of the name.
I got one for you,
but he's not gonna.
If Raleigh fought Adrian,
he beats Raleigh.
I think he beats Raleigh too. I think he gets that belt. I think he gets that belt off of Raleigh. I think pretty easy too.
But he's not going to get that fight because he's not with PBC anymore.
I know. I was just throwing that as a scenario, but it's got to be at 140. I don't think he can realistically make 140. I think I don't know why they keep throwing that out there. 147.
Is he gonna like be like Broner weight, like 144.5?
Yeah, it's got to be a cash out type fight. Like you win this fight against the lawyer. His name is
I
Bill
have a fight,
Hutchinson.
and it'll be a fun fight. And I think
Conor Ben.
everybody, y'all will watch. I know you guys will watch it.
Conor Ben.
You would watch it, no? Adrian Broner versus Blair. Woo! The
I would.
Flair
Yeah. Yeah.
Cobbs. Imagine those press conferences.
Yep. I'd watch that fight. That's a good fight.
And who wins?
Blair. I think Blair wins the fight.
Does he?
Yeah, I think so. But that's the level of fights that Broner is going to either be in those type of fights, and if Don still has it, he can leverage him into those type of fights. But also the fights where you can cash him out to where he can be a gatekeeper, like the gatekeeper that keeps coming back to lose, a gatekeeper against a Conor Ben, a gatekeeper against I mean, look, Boots Ennis isn't with PBC. He's with Showtime. Like that type of fight. Although Boots should be beyond that at that point, at this point.
Hey,
But
I
those
got
are
to
the
give it a
type of
Broner,
fights.
though. You remember when he, really quick, remember when he was calling Leonard Allerby a bitch, right, sitting right next to him?
Yeah.
Hey, you a bitch, too. You're not going to disrespect. Shut your bitch ass.
That's what I always liked about Adrian is Adrian was one of the few fighters on that roster who would call out everybody on the stage on his side. You know, on his side of it. He would publicly like have these tantrums where he would call out Al Heyman and stuff. It was beautiful. It's beautiful.
I
That's one
just
of the things I
I just
value
found it
about him.
funny how like Leonard Allerby, how's it going, Leonard? Oh, it's like you're not going to disrespect me like that. And then he doubled down on it. Shut your bitch ass up. And like what are you going to do about it? Like I know Leonard tries to pass out like he's a tough dude. You know what I mean? Now, whether he's a tough guy or not, I don't know. I never seen him fight or nothing. But you're not a professional fighter. I know that.
He did tell him that.
Like shut your bitch ass up. Shut that soft ass shit up. He said. That's what he said. When he was like, "Well, it's not about me. It's about you two. You're gonna fight me." The best man went, "Stop that soft shit up. Shut that soft shit
And
up."
AB at least fought the fights. He was never a guy like Danny Garcia. He was never a guy at 147 who was going to be one of the top guys, but he fought the fights. Now, as far as the belt picture at 140, it's Regis owns the WBC, Matias the IBF. The WBO is being fought this weekend. Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez, and Raleigh Romero owns the WBA. Oh my God. But
all this is Tater's fault for vacating those belts.
Who is the guy? Let's just throw Raleigh out off the bat. Good Lord. Matias, Josh Taylor, Teofimo, Regis. Now, who's the guy that's 2 years from now is still going to own belts in the weight class
Regis.
or is still going to be a top? Regis is going to be that guy, you think?
Regis is that guy. I think, first of all, I know a lot of people criticize him for the move to Matchroom. Mm-hmm. I didn't. The problem with Regis was always he didn't have a platform. Right? He needed a platform. And I think Top Rank wanted too many fights. And Matchroom did like 3 is good, especially with a fight right away. And not excited about the Zorilla fight, if I'm honest. I don't like the fight, but
me neither.
It was a replacement of a replacement. So it is what it is. But it's going to keep them busy. It's going to keep them sharp. And then they're going to try to set something else up. But I think he's the guy. And the landscape will, I think, tilt to his favor, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too. But Josh Taylor is still Josh Taylor, I think.
But I think he's going to move up. I think Crawford and Spencer are going to move up. Now, we've got to see Josh Taylor's going to beat Teofimo first. Obviously, first things first. But if he wins that fight, as we're kind of expecting him to, then what we're looking at is Josh Taylor against Virgil Ortiz's, the Boots Ennis's. That's that new like that. That's where Josh Taylor's going to be, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And Josh Taylor also is going to be a free agent moving into a new division. He's going to have options. And another
Josh
guy,
Taylor versus Rocha.
Yeah, and I'm telling you this, just off topic, real quick. A guy who's going to have a ton of options is Tim Tszyu at 154. When you have guys like Errol and Bud moving up, and if he can somehow get this Mel fight and get a hold of all the belts, and I'm sure there'll be a rematch involved. If he does that, the amount of big fights this guy's going to be in, whether it be here in America or Australia, I'm telling you, the sky is the limit for that guy because he got a good style. He's got a fan-friendly style, but he looks more and more like he's the goods.
Look, there's no doubt, like, out of respect for Charlo, because he's the undisputed champion, Team Zoo made no argument about the fight being in Vegas or in the US, because to them it's like, hey, he's giving us the opportunity. So whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Plus, Tim likes to fight in America anyway. He loves American culture and he wants to do what his dad did, etc. But at least from what I've been told in live interviews or what I've heard Tim Zoo say, his management say, promotional team say in other interviews, just putting all 2 + 2 together. They're really not interested in playing this B-side after a Trammell fight. They're just not interested. You know, like to them, it's like once we get all the belts, we're going to call the shots. Because they're using language like, if Spence wants to move up, we'll welcome him with open arms over here in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the type of language they're using. Now, whether it ends up in Australia or not, I don't know, but that's where they're starting the negotiations, right?
Yeah.
Like they're starting it from this position of, how about you come over here? And if you want me to go over there, well, okay, well, what do you got? What do you have to offer me, right? So I think that's the way they're looking at it. Tim Zoo, to me, he's a big guy too, man. He's not that small. Yep. He'll eventually, especially if his brother moves up the ranks, he'll eventually probably move up to 160. Because I know you're not going to want to hear this, but they're brothers. They're not going to fight each other. So he'll go to 160. And 160 looks easier, bro. 154.
Oh, it's way easier.
Those guys at 160, no offense to them. No offense to Munguia and Adamas and old Deryanchenko and even Zanabek. No offense to them. But they're not harder fights than Jermell, Spence, Crawford. They're not harder fights. They're bigger guys, but they're not harder fights.
Yep.
So, like, I could see him winning undisputed, and if they don't want to work with him, he'll move up, bro. Like he'll move up, and they could do a lot of events. And he's a pay-per-view star in Australia.
Yep.
He's signed out venues over there. So.
Yep, that's going to be a new star in the sport universally. Centurion saying he's picking Teo. I think we're going to get more of that as the week goes on. More people coming out and saying, I'm picking Teofimo. That always happens with the underdog closer as you get closer to the fight, right? But I'm sticking with Taylor. You're leaning Taylor as well. I think that's going to be I think most people are going to be picking that pick, like a Josh Taylor by decision type.
And one more point I want to make, and I think it should become like a time-honored tradition. It should. Like it isn't, but it should be a time-honored tradition that you go fight the undisputed champ in their backyard. Like Cambozas fought Teofimo in New York. Haney went to Australia to fight Cambozas, right? So like Loma had to fight Haney in the US. Like that's Tim Zoo's like, no, I gotta go fight the champ over there. Like that should be a time-honored tradition. It should, in my opinion. So if Tim Zoo becomes the undisputed champion, dude should go over there and fight him, to be honest with you.
That's where the money is. That's where all the belts are. Go. Much like Haney versus Kambosos. And that's why we respect Haney. He went over there and did it. Did it twice. Even when he had the belts. Went over there and did it again. Respect to him. But
and in this era of social media, with I don't have it with me, but a phone, the way we have phones now, the way we like, I think we're slowly getting away from the fights have to be in America, right? Mm-hmm. I think even Team Zoo is kind of like, now this is just a guess. I don't know this for a fact, but I think they're even realizing like, you know, like we don't need to do what Cassius did. Like we could kind of like do some shit over here. Like, you know what I mean? We could throw a party over here with flames. And have you seen that shit? Like the flames. Like no limit puts on a show, bro.
Yep.
Like we could sell pay-per-views over here. Like we could put on an event. You know, we could put an event in Melbourne where there's 5 million residents, or Brisbane where there's 2 million, or Sydney where there's another 5 million. Like we could put on shows over here. We're not exactly a third world country. You know what I mean? Well, we know how to handle sports events. So we have our own version of football over here, whatever, right? So I could see them like, this is a country that's hosted the Olympics successfully. They've done a lot of, they host like the big rugby tournaments, so they could handle a boxing fight. Like it's not like that big of a deal to them. And you saw them like pack a house for Horn Pacquiao. They packed the house for Kambosos Haney. They're doing it for Tim Tszyu. Times are changing, bro. Like when's the last time you heard of an American fighter? I'm not saying this ever happened, but with a backing of PBC saying, you know what? I got to go to Japan to fight this dude. I have to go fight anyway over there. You know what I mean? Because I got to be realistic. It's just not, America's not the place to do it. I got to go over there, right?
Yeah.
So boxing, and then, of course, got Saudi Arabia now, somebody put a chat, but it's expanding globally, bro. And it's reachable for all of us. Like, fights in the UK aren't bad for us. They're in the afternoon. That's perfect for us. 4 p.m., watch a world championship fight, and then enjoy the rest of Saturday. We're good.
Yep.
So fights in Europe don't bother us in the U.S. It's kind of hard for them when fights are prime time in the U.S., it's like 4 a.m. over there. Like, you know what I mean? In Europe or whatever. So it's kind of harder for them. So, just saying.
Yep. Where are we at tomorrow on your channel? What time? What we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow, man, I'm going to do a podcast tomorrow. We'll do HCP podcast, same time as always, Tuesdays. It'll be 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. Just stay posted for that.
Stay posted. We'll send that out. I'll send that out to the people on the mailing list as well as the newsletter starting tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions, the easiest way to get to is hcpboxingtribe@gmail.com. Questions, suggestions, hit us up there.
Make sure you email us so we can get you on the list, so we can send you the notifications directly to the people, so we don't have to be dependent on do it right now. You guys are watching right now, right? We got 40 people watching. If you haven't done it yet, the email's in the bottom. Go ahead and email us, okay? We could get at least 10 more people right now. We could get 10 of you, right, to get on the email list, so we could mail you directly as soon as we go live, and you could get the notification that we're about to go live, etc. And we could send it out when we do any type of HCP show, whether it's HCP Aftermath, X, or podcast, or the roundtable. So you guys should stay posted with that.
Yep. Appreciate everybody rolling through. See y'all tomorrow over on D Styles channel. Peace. God bless.